Okay, so welcome back everybody. So this is day 3 of the Understanding Your Anxiety Masterclass. So if anyone has any questions from yesterday's slides, feel free to comment underneath here. So a quick recap. So yesterday we went into a bit of detail about the unconscious mind and how 9% of the time we're doing things unconsciously, and that's behaviours and patterns that we just automatically run. We talked a little bit about cause and effect and acknowledging decisions we've made along the way, and how when we do that it empowers us and gives us results being a cause rather than usually as it being an effect. That's Claire's dog.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
So then we went through the model of communication very briefly, well, as briefly as we could to keep it quite high level for you. We talked about how we filter external events based on our values, beliefs, our attitudes, meta programs, which are our filters and personality traits as they are also known, and how out of the 11 million bits per second we actually only have access consciously to 126 bits. That's a big difference. And then that's what our perception of the world is what our view of the world is based on, is that 126 bits of information. And then we talked briefly about shadow me and how to acknowledge that side of us and to allow it to be accepted, which was again just an overview. There's so much more we could go into with that, isn't there, Claire?
Oh, so much more. Well, with everything, we've just skimmed the bases on everything.
Yeah. So, and then we did peripheral vision. So I'm going to give this to Claire to do so we can go back into peripheral vision and stay in that throughout today's presentation.
Yes. So, so to get into peripheral vision, so just focus on a spot above eye level, keep focusing on that. And then you just need to bring your awareness to the side. So the best thing to do is when Claire did it yesterday, pick your fingers up beside you and wiggle your fingers so that you can see your fingers wiggling either side while still focusing on that spot. And then you can gradually, once you've got that and you can see your fingers wiggling, then you can bring your eye level back down to normal, and then you can stop your wiggling your fingers and just stay in that peripheral vision as we go through the presentation. So first of all, Claire, what is NLP? So I'm doing it, but if you switch slides, so what is NLP, timeline therapy and hypnosis? So they all work with the unconscious mind, and the attempt with all of them is to work consciously with the unconscious mind, and this causes conscious and unconscious integration. So just a bit about them. So NLP stands for neuro-linguistic programming. Neuro refers to your neurology, linguistic refers to language, and programming refers to how that neural language functions. So in other words, and I explain it like this with a lot of my clients, learning NLP is like learning the language of your own mind. And I always make it simpler with this example. So have you ever tried to communicate with someone who didn't speak your language and they couldn't understand you? So for example, when someone goes out to a restaurant in a foreign country and they think they ordered steak, but when the food shows up, it turns out they actually asked for liver stew. So this is the kind of relationship that most of us have with our own unconscious mind. So we might think that we are ordering up things like money, happiness, a healthy relationship, peace, no anxiety, being able to stick to a healthy diet. But unless that's what's showing up, then basically something is getting lost in translation. So the conscious mind is the goal setter and the unconscious mind is the goal getter. And this is why all change has to take place at the unconscious level, as it then allows you to achieve your goals. Timeline therapy. So it's a timeline therapy is a process and a set of techniques that allow you to have emotional control over your life. This is literally one of our most favourite techniques that Claire and I use with clients, because it gets results instantly, and it is something that had a massive impact on both of us when we were removing anxiety from our lives. So it's a technique used to get rid of any inappropriate emotional reactions or outbursts of anger, like sadness, feeling depressed, getting rid of anxiety or fear, guilt and hurt. So if these negative emotions that are the things that are stopping you from achieving what you want and what you deserve in life, then they can be removed with timeline therapy. Plus, it allows us to change any limiting decisions or limiting beliefs that don't work for you. An example of one of those is, I'll never be good enough. I'm not the type of person who can have a great relationship, or I don't deserve a good life. They're all limiting beliefs or limiting decisions. And they basically create barriers to your success. And by letting them go, you'll be able to achieve your goals and your dreams. And then we've got hypnotherapy. So hypnotherapy focuses on a client's imagination and unconscious mind together to help bring about positive change to their thoughts, feelings, or behaviour. And common issues that can be addressed through hypnotherapy are things like giving up smoking, phobias, weight loss, and confidence issues. And confidence issues can also be linked to anxiety. They tend to come together. So a lot of people with anxiety well, not always, but can have a lack of confidence in some areas, if not all. And to do all of these, we need to bypass the critical faculty, which I spoke about yesterday. So that's the part of you that cares to distinguish between reality and fantasy. And then once you have bypassed the critical faculty, that's when the change work can take place. And that's when you're in the unconscious mind. So yeah, that's just a bit about NLP, timeline therapy, and hypnosis. Over to you, Claire.
Yeah, so timeline therapy is really life-changing once you go through and release all of the negative emotions that are linked on your past events. I mean, Claire's kind of given the basics on it, but it is literally life-changing. Once you release those negative emotions, that's kind of from the root cause as well. Well, it's not kind of, it is from the root cause. So it's emotion-free, which is really amazing, because you don't have to go through all of the things that upset you and cause emotions to come to the surface, because normally the root cause is from at the age of 0 to 7, which would cover more in the 21 day. So yeah, thank you, Claire. So why is that not changing? So we did have some questions about the 21-day program. So we thought we'd put a slide in for today to go into a little bit more detail. So about what was included in the price. So the workshop that we're running is running from the 7th of September. So that's the Monday. The 7th is, might be the 8th actually. I might have that completely wrong on the date.
The 9th.
It's the 9th, it's 2 days wrong. So Monday the 9th of September. So from that you'll get insight into your behaviours and patterns, and you'll understand more about how your unconscious mind works for you. So we do that through a series of tasks, the tasks that you do with you personally, so you don't have to share these with the group. Also you'll find out more about your personality traits, so your meta programs, and how they affect how you address things in your life. We're going to do a weekly relaxed hypnotherapy session. So on a Sunday at 8 p.m. it'll be about an hour long, and it's just a relax of body and mind. This is the nicest hypnotherapy session that we do. It's just so relaxing, and even Claire and I, because when we do it, we're just so relaxed when we're doing it. It's lovely. We have a live and interactive call once per week, and that'll be on the Wednesday at 8 p.m. And you'll have the skills to take away with you to use in everyday life to start taking back control. So you get a lot more insight. And then on completion of the course, you get a free ebook. We might even throw in 2, depending on how generous we're feeling. But yeah, so it's going to be a really useful course. So the price, we're going to release the link on Saturday, and the price is £47 if you book by 12 p.m. on the Sunday, and the full price after Sunday 12 p.m. will be the £97. And we'll post the link, as I said, on Saturday, and then we'll let you all know that it's there. So we'll drop you a message with the link, or we'll tag you in the group. But yeah, it's going to be a really insightful course, and we're really looking forward to launching this and run it with you guys. Have you got anything to add on that, Claire?
Just that there'll be a workbook, so that people can fill in the tasks that we post into the group.
Yeah,
I think that's all, apart from I'm agreeing with the hypnotherapy session. I love it.
I love it too. Cool.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, and then we are on to the next slide, which is over to Claire.
Okay, so building blocks for success. So success in any event, no matter what it is, and like including removing anxiety, is made up of a collection of smaller events built on top of one another. Success is not, like some people think, it's not luck at all. So first of all, you need to have an objective. So what area of your life are you concentrating on? For example, is it to be free from anxiety? So then you will need a certain amount of knowledge about the mind to be able to work towards achieving that goal, which is what this masterclass, and also the technique like peripheral vision, and we'll be sharing another technique today. That's what it's all been about, is just giving you a little bit more knowledge about the mind, and the capability, which is what you gain by joining us on the 21-day program, because as we said, you will have an even greater insight into patterns and behaviors. I'm just going to run through an example of building blocks when it comes to setting goals. So first of all, you need to have a clear goal. So it's important to clearly define your goal so that you can repeat it to yourself. It should be quite short, and each word needs to count. So think big, you don't hold back. Anything is possible. There's no reason to limit yourself when you're writing goals. Next stage, so we're doing the building blocks here now. So the next stage is small steps working towards the goal. So this one seems pretty basic, but it's worth mentioning. So once you have your goal, your mission, the thing that you're striving for, it may be overwhelming to try and tackle it in one big step. In actual fact, most goals are overwhelming to try and tackle in one big step, if I'm honest. So goals are best achieved over a series of small steps, laying down a foundation which you can build upon. You'll notice that as you work towards your goal, it becomes easier because of the foundation that you've been building, which is true in anything you do. So all of those things are small steps towards the bigger goal. The next step is consistency. So just as small steps help you to get your larger goal, being consistent is crucial for building on the steps that you've previously completed. So doing something small every day will help you form a habit. For example, when I was removing anxiety from my life, I was journaling every day. So that's just an example. And by doing that, you'll be doing one small thing to help you achieve your goal. And then perseverance. So many people set their goals and start to work towards them, but as life throws curveballs, which it does to all of us, things change, time's used up with other things, and the consistency stops. And if it's important enough to you, then it's absolutely important to persevere. Stick with what you've set out to do, no matter what comes up. And the ones that do persevere will achieve far more than those who stop and break the habits that they're forming. So there's always time to do one small thing to work towards a goal. And at this point, time management becomes a top priority. Like maybe you get up 20 minutes earlier to work towards your goal, or maybe you take half an hour away from the TV if you watch TV. But whatever you do, you need to stick with it, and it will pay off in the end. And perseverance is something that Claire and I, like, we've had to really work on to get to where we are. I mean, I work a full-time job, and when I was coming up to being a trainer of NLP, I was working crazy hours at work, going out at 6:30, coming home at 7:30, and that was the dog.
Bless you, dog.
I was coming home at 7:30, and what I could have done was just gone to bed. And believe you me, there was many times when I just wanted to go to bed, but I didn't. I sat up and I persevered with the studying, and I wouldn't have got to where I am now if I hadn't persevered. The next one I think is really important. So it's the next sort of building block is rewarding yourself for achieving your goal, because at the end of the day, you deserve it. So when you've completed your goal, no matter how small it was, take time to reward yourself. And it doesn't have to be something extravagant. It could be, I don't know, purchasing some bits to have a pamper evening, going out for a meal, taking an hour out of your day just for you. Anything you want, but make sure you reward yourself in some way. And this is important to do, as so many people work so hard on something and yet don't take the time to realise what they've accomplished. So you're your biggest fan, so make it happen. You deserve to go for these goals and then reward yourself. And after you celebrate, look at what you've accomplished and see where you want to go next. So set your next goal and build off the success of the first goal. And it's basically a simple, continuous process. And it all starts with you, as we all have to look after our physical body. So like watching what we eat, taking exercise, making sure we get enough sleep. So that's physically, mentally, learning new things, challenging yourself, getting out of the grey zone, the comfort zone. And then emotionally, dealing with emotions as they come up. So releasing past emotions, which is what Claire and I do with various clients through coaching or on our NLP practitioner course, and then they go away with the skills. And spiritually, like that higher self, listening to your intuition, meditating, self-hypnosis, taking time out for you and connecting with others. So yeah, that's just a basic on the building blocks to success. That's a real sort of cut down on it, but really important. It's something well worth focusing on. Yeah, so over to you, Claire.
Yeah, so I completely agree. Like the most important thing in all of that is you, and focusing on what you can achieve. And once you've worked on you, the rest gets easier and easier as you go through, because once you clear up all the stuff that's causing the problems, so the emotional stuff, and then once you've done that, it just frees up a lot of emotional energy as well, where it's kind of pulled into the negative stuff, and then you can focus more on the positives as well. So I think the most important thing to do is to work on you, and then while you're doing that, gain the knowledge and the skills to get your goals. But yeah, it's a really good process to follow. I liked your little thing, Claire. Okay, so what to do when you have anxiety. So this is a really useful, and I used this with my son Oliver this morning, because he was a little bit anxious about school, which sadly is a side effect of autism. So when anxiety hits, so first of all, what are you focusing on? Are you focusing on what you want to happen or what you don't want to happen? Because for anxiety, if you think about what anxiety is, it's focusing on what you don't want to happen. So all of the things that could go wrong or that, you know, might happen. So this is what you will now do instead. So what we want you to do is, so anxiety is an imagination. So the thing we're going to use is your imagination again. So what we'd like you to do is follow this process. So ask yourself, what are you anxious about? What specifically? And then once you've got the answer to that, what we want you to do is, most things that people are anxious about, let's say it's an event, you've got a work event where you've got to speak or something and you're really anxious about that. So let's imagine it's that. So what we do is we then focus to 15 minutes after the event happened and things went really well, everything went exactly as you want it to go. And while you're out there and you're doing that, you're going to look back to now from that event and you're going to notice if the anxiety is gone. If the anxiety's gone, that's fabulous, and come back to now. If the anxiety is still there, then we repeat the process. So you ask yourself, am I imagining it completing successfully? If you've answered no to that, so you then talk to yourself as if you're saying what you want to happen. So you want to have done your speak, everyone was happy, you got all the content out that you wanted to, and you're confident that you've done a good job. And now look back to now, and that anxiety will be gone, because once you imagine that event successfully completing, that allows the anxiety then to dissipate and to disappear. And then once you've done that, just come back to now, and that's it. Simple technique that changes anxiety forever. Because once you get used to using this process, it is second nature. So Claire and I both use this for our sons because they both have autism, and it's a very, very useful tool to have. So we just talk, I did this again with Ollie this morning. He was worried about his first day back at school. So I talked him through it. So it's 15 minutes after school, your dad's picked you up, everything's gone really well, you enjoyed your day, you met all your friends and you caught up. And I asked him, how did he feel? And he said, fine. I said, okay, so you still worried? And he said, no. And I was like, fabulous. Right, let's get dressed. And everything else just went to plan for the morning, which is good. But yeah, a really, really useful technique. But yeah, that's it. That's simple. Do you have anything else to add, Claire, on that?
Just a couple. So, all I was going to do is give a couple of examples, to be honest. So, I'm gonna a bit about me. So when we were doing our trainers training, Claire and I and everyone that did it were pushed so far out of our comfort zones that we didn't know who we were or what we were or where we were. It was and there was one point when I just thought, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can stay this far out of my comfort zone. But me being me, and I thought I haven't come this far to only come this far, and I did this technique, and boom, just went straight away, just went, and I was there, and I just cracked on with it. So it's really, really powerful. And another example is one of my twins just randomly started suffering with anxiety about 2 weeks ago, and we had to go and collect him from somewhere. He's never suffered with it before, and we had to collect him from somewhere, and then 2 days later he was going off to a rugby event at Cardiff University, because they're talented rugby players, and he kept saying he wasn't going to go. Now rugby is his life, so I thought, right, I need to do something quick. So first of all, I did timeline therapy on anxiety, and we got rid of that. And then I did this technique with him, and I said to him, like, no, I'm going to drop you off. You're going to go every time. If there's any point when you feel anxious, this is what you need to do. And I checked up on him every day, and nothing. Gone. He hasn't had a bit of anxiety since. So it's really powerful. And what I'd say, Claire, is although it's on this a masterclass, it might be worth, we'll actually put the process into the group so people can follow it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Coolio.
Cool. Over to you.
Over to me. So 4 steps to learning. Okay, so 4 steps to learning relates to psychological states involved in the process of progressing from incompetence to competence in a skill. So we are initially unaware of how little we know, or unconscious about incompetence. And as we recognise our incompetence, we consciously acquire a skill, and then we consciously use it. And then eventually the skill can be utilised without it being consciously thought through. That's when we have then acquired unconscious competence. It all sounds a bit confusing, but if you sort of maybe listen to this a few times, or if you read the slides a few times, and if it doesn't, then you can put some questions in and I will post some stuff that will make you understand it more. So I'm just going to go through them a bit. So the 4 steps. So we've got conscious incompetence. So this is where an individual, or us, we don't understand or know how to do something, and we don't necessarily recognise the deficit as well as the value of a new skill in addressing the deficit. So, and the making of mistakes can be integral to the learning process at this stage. So we don't know what we don't know. For instance, we might not know that there is even a different way to deal with anxiety. So when we're conscious, we've got conscious incompetence, we might not know that there's even a different way to deal with anxiety. We just assume that's it, that's what we've got. So then we move on to conscious competence. So the individual understands or knows how to do something. However, demonstrating the skill or knowledge requires concentration. It may be broken down into steps, and there is heavy conscious involvement in executing the new skill. And this awareness provides the momentum and motivation to learn. So, for example, a child sees another child riding a bicycle and they want to be able to do it. And suddenly the possibility of riding that bicycle has been introduced into their mind. So that's conscious competence. So then you've got unconscious incompetence. So the individual must recognise their own incompetence and the value of the new skill before moving on to the next stage. So for example, with the child riding the bike, they've started riding the bike and they realise that they're not that great of it, and they can't move on until they've got the value of that new skill. So the length of time an individual spends in this stage depends on the strength of the stimulus to learn. So we learn how to communicate in this way, but when we try it out, it seems awkward or uncomfortable. This, and this is important, this is often the point where people give up, and they go back to their old ways, back into their comfort zone or their grey area, because they can't quite get it, and they just think, no, shush, I'm going to go back, I'm going to just give up and not bother with this, and then off they go back to the grey zone and nothing changes. And after that, you've got unconscious competence. So the individual has had so much practice with a skill that it has become like second nature and can be performed easily. And as a result, the skill can be performed while executing another task. The individual may be able to teach others to do it, depending on how and when it was learned. So basically, this is where the skill has become automatic. So for example, the skill to get into peripheral vision, which we've taught you without needing to think about it first. So the more you practice peripheral vision, there'll be times when you think, I can't get this, I can't get this, I'm going to give up. That's back in your unconscious incompetence. But if you keep going and keep going and keep going and keep practicing it, you'll get it, and that'll be unconscious competence, and you'll just be able to do it, which is what Claire and I do without even thinking about it. You'll just naturally be able to get into peripheral vision. So it's essential just to not give up at stage 3, basically. Yeah, so that's the 4 steps to learning. Over to you, Claire.
Yeah, I think this is really important to understand, because when you know these 4 steps and that you get to unconscious incompetence, which is where most people find that it takes a length of time of doing the same thing, and like you said, that's when most people normally give up. But if you keep going, it gets to unconscious competence, and that's when it becomes second nature, and that's when it becomes so much easier, just like autopilot, really. So I think that's a really good explanation with the bike thing. Actually, it makes it a lot easier to understand, a lot easier. Okay, so next we're going to talk about the change cycle. So this is important because the change cycle, we tend to notice that things are happening. So if you think of everything's going really well, so you're at point A, and at point A everything's going swimmingly, and you're going along the journey of life, and you're coming along, and then you get to B and everything gets a bit stale, and you're a bit, so maybe in a relationship the spark's gone a little bit, and then, oh, where's my thing gone? So you're in B and you're like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And then you focus on trying to get back to A, and while you're coming back to A, you're kind of sliding down into C because you're focusing on what you've already come away from, and you're coming down into C, and C is like, I would say rock bottom with regards to depression and anxiety. C is where you can't get any lower, and you kind of need to get back. So people try to get back to where they were before, but actually within a change cycle, that you can't get back. There is no back. The only way is forwards. And what we do with our coaching and other things you can do as well, is to work your way back to D. So some change cycles are really quick and easy, and that little dip's just a teeny little bump in the road. But other life-changing events like depression and anxiety are less easy to get out of. So with like the 21-day program, we will give you skills to get you to D, and then you go from D and we come along and we hit an A1. So when you get to D, this is the point where D is the point where you kind of have to keep enforcing that change to get to point to A1. So you need to act on the things you've learned, and you need to enforce your boundaries to get to the next point, and then it starts all over again. So your A then is your A1, and then it repeats. But as I said, with every change cycle, I mean, some can last a minute, others can last days. I mean, my depression and anxiety lasted about 4 years, but luckily I found the skills to get out, and that's what we now coach with and help people with. But I think it's really important to understand the change cycle, and that even if you are at C, there is always a way out to get to D. Anything else to add on that one, Claire?
Apart from the dog barking. I was, no, but you said most of it. I was just going to again give an example. So when you said C with anxiety and depression was rock bottom, that was definitely my rock bottom was C. And what happened was, I think when I did my introduction on what seemed like 5 years ago, but it was only Monday, I said that I felt sorry for myself for a while. So while I was feeling sorry for myself at rock bottom, what I was trying to do is climb back up to B. I'm thinking, let me get back up there. But then I just had this sort of moment of like, no, I can't go back up there, because the back up there wasn't very nice either. And that's what got me back down to C. So I want to try and find a different way. And so that's when I started climbing up and found NLP and etc., and got myself up to D, and then moved along to A1. And then if I jump way into the future to what I just said about doing trainers training and having that little blip where I was out of my comfort zone. So I've gone from A1 back to A, along to B, and then I had a little blip where I slipped down to C. But because of the skills and knowledge I have, I was very quickly able to get from C back to D, and the cycle just continues. But the more you do it and the more knowledge you have and the more practice you have, the quicker you're able to get out from C to D. I mean, Claire and I can get out from C to D within the space of about 15 minutes now, rather than like a couple of years. So it's huge. The change cycle is absolutely huge, and really worth knowing that it can happen.
Yeah.
It can completely happen for you, when it comes to anything that you want to change in your life. And yeah, I just hope that makes a bit of sense in that respect, really.
Fabulous. Okay, and then this is yours.
Okay. Do you know what? There's not much to say on this, because I think this is pretty much as it says. So, prerequisites for change. This is something that's essential for anything in your life that you want to change. I mean, be it anxiety, be it absolutely anything that you want to change, there are prerequisites for that change. First of all, focus on what you want. Focus forward. Looking back isn't an option. Okay, we cannot, none of us can change the past, but what we can do is work in the present, so we can work where we are now, in the now, to change the future. And remembering that anxiety is a fear of something happening in the future, so we can work in the present to change our future, but you must focus on what you want at all times. And it's like one of our, like we say, our coaches say, is blinkers on and focus at all times. And then it's about taking action. So if we want something bad enough, the only way we're going to get it is to take action. For example, and I've come back to it a couple of times tonight, but I think it's quite important. When I had my breakdown and I was at rock bottom, if I hadn't taken action, I'd still be there. I'd still be there now. And the only way I got out of it was to take action. And the third one is to get rid of negative emotions. So release the past negative emotions. So get rid of negative emotions, limiting decisions, any parts within you that are in conflict with each other, which is something we do. Claire and I do something called parts integration with clients, and that's another huge technique. So parts, when I say parts, it's a bit like sort of one part of you wants this, one part of you wants that, and it's a case of pulling them together and making a whole. And values, and just create a compelling future. So make that future as compelling as you possibly can. So look at what you are now and just look forward and make that future as compelling, be it visually, what you can hear, what you can see, what you can feel, and create the change at the unconscious level. And as the saying goes, the world is then your oyster. So the prerequisites for change are something that everyone should just carry with them at all times and keep reminding themselves. I even actually printed out a little laminated, like, it was tiny, it was to go on a key ring, and I printed this out for them, and they had it on their key ring, so that every time they picked up the keys, they looked at it. And it's just focus on what you want, take action, and release past negative emotions. So yeah, really, really important.
Yeah, and I think also when you're focusing on what you want, it's really important to use positive language and keep it simple, because we tend to overcomplicate things. So for example, if your goal is you want to be free from anxiety, then your goal is being free from anxiety. It's not a negative, it's always a positive. So you wouldn't say I don't want to have anxiety anymore, because your unconscious mind doesn't unprocess the negative, so just process the anxiety. So keep it positive language and keep it simple. Taking action, use the techniques we've shared with you. We're going to do a quick recap. Maybe we'll just do a quick video to post into the group. Claire, what do you think of just the techniques, so that people can just access those? and also get more understanding and skills. Never stop finding out about different techniques, different processes, because once you've got closure on something, there's, you know, it doesn't do you any good. So you just need to keep moving on and moving forwards. But yeah, I really do like the prerequisites for change, because I go by these as well. I actually had a change cycle today, which is quite strange, with the process that I've been through recently, of splitting from my husband and doing things on a first. So today was the first back to school I've done on my own, and that was a big change process for me. So I had negative emotions. I've had quite an emotional day, but I've dealt with it all quickly and it's gone. So within the space of an hour, I noticed what was going on and I've released them. So having those skills in your toolbox is really amazing. Right, so recap, keep moving forwards, choose to shine. It's everything is your decision on what you do. So you've got access to the group, support each other, use the techniques we've taught you. Eventually they'll become second nature, as we talked through today. So we've got the peripheral vision, we've got the anxiety reframe, using positive language, direct orders, keep it simple. So, you know, it's great to have a big goal. I will be anxiety free, but you can break that down daily. So say it how you want it. So today I will be anxiety free. And if your anxiety does come up, then that's okay. It's just anxiety. We don't have to own these labels as well. So I think that's really important to say as well, because we're given these identities by the doctors saying, oh yes, that's anxiety. Well, actually, it's just your body reaction to a thought that you've had of fear, and that's triggered the fight or flight process, as you'll remember from day one. So if you focus on what you want and don't hold on to it as it's yours, it isn't yours, you don't own it, you don't have to have it, you can release it and use the skills to not have it, and it makes the whole difference. It really does. So the link for the course, the 21 days where I went through earlier, so remember the early bird offer, book by 12 p.m. on Sunday to get it at £47, and after that the price will rise to £97. But we've really enjoyed sharing this with you. Understanding your anxiety was the first steps for me and Claire, I think, moving forwards and then doing our trainings, because it really did control our lives, and I think Claire will agree.
Yeah.
So we've had some amazing feedback so far. What I will be doing is I'll post a link as well for some more feedback. It can be I can't say it. Anonymous. That's it. Thank you. So you don't have to give your name. But yeah, any feedback is greatly appreciated. If you have any questions about today's or any of the other information, please post in the group or message us. If you find anything interesting or helpful, this is your group too, so share away. And we just want to really thank you for your time, because that's the most valuable thing you can spare, is your time and spending the time on yourself. So listening to the videos and taking the time out to do that is the most important thing you can do for yourself.
Yeah. And that comes back to where I said you need to reward yourself.
Yeah.
So you've given up your time for something, and like Claire said, time is the most valuable thing that we have in life, is to reward yourself for giving up your time. And there's just one more thing I was going to give, a little tip. This is like secret squirrel tip, is you can talk to your unconscious mind. And an example of this is I had some negative emotions when my twins left school, and I kept just randomly getting really emotional during the day. So what I did was I actually spoke to my unconscious mind and said, if you're going to deal with these emotions, I want you to deal with them between the times of 3 and 5 in the morning, and not during the day. and the next day I woke up, I went through the day and gone. All emotions gone. That's just my free tip to end the masterclass, is that you can talk to your unconscious mind and you can actually tell it what to do. And if you try and do it, you'll be amazed at what happens, believe me.
Yeah, and just to add on that, to give you another bonus tip, you can also, when your anxiety, so this is something I did from the beginning, was when my anxiety would start, I would tell myself to stop it and just say, stop it. You can say it out loud to start with, or if there's nobody around, because you don't want to kind of look a bit crazy. But yeah, just tell your unconscious mind to stop it, because your unconscious mind should be doing what's best for you. So it thinks it's doing you a favour, but actually it's not, because we don't need anxiety. So tell yourself to stop it. Be really firm, like you were talking to a child. Stop it. And you can do that in your head or out loud, up to you. And then go into peripheral vision. And eventually, using stop it on your own is sometimes enough.
Yeah, it's powerful. It's absolutely powerful. And yeah, you might think, oh my God, I'm talking to myself, but you're not. You're talking to your unconscious mind. And like Claire said, you're talking to like a 5-year-old child. And yeah, just stop it. You're not doing that now. You're going to do it when I tell you to do it. And like I said, I told it to do it between 3 and 5 in the morning, and all my emotions were gone. So yeah, talk to your unconscious, tell your unconscious mind what you want. And say it all in positives. Never ever use negative, like Claire was saying. So yeah, a couple of little bonus tips there.
Yep, always a good one. Right, so let me stop this share and stop the recording. Oh, no. Hang on a minute. What's going on?